All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for the SLCP meetup. Today, we'll be focusing on the water section of the action item form. Um, this part of the process, rather, or program encourages libraries to take a closer look at how water is being used in our libraries and try to find practical, sustainable ways to reduce waste. Through this section, members are asked to do a bunch of things like conduct a water assessment, to see how your library's water use and look for ways to conserve, whether it's through upgrading your faucets and toilets, improving irrigation systems, monitoring your water bills, um, or creating a leak detection and response plan. All small changes in these areas can make a meaningful difference over time, both environmentally and financially, as I'm sure many of you have experienced working through this section. As we discuss things, I definitely encourage people to share their experiences, ideas, and questions, whether you're just getting started, or if you've already implemented some water saving measures. Any insights that you can share or willing to share can definitely help others find ways to make an impact. Um, and we'll leave some time at the end to kind of open it up to talk about other sections, and let people ask questions if you have them. But we're going to start. We have a guest speaker who's going to share. We have Irene Langlois, the branch manager from Maplewood Memorial Library in New Jersey. She's going to share with us, what their experience working through this section. Irene, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Sure, thanks. Okay, let me share my screen.
Looks good.
All right, as Alex said, I'm with Maplewood Memorial Library in Maplewood, New Jersey. Maplewood actually has two libraries, the main library and a branch. The main library is a brand new LEED Gold building that opened on July 5th. As you can see in the picture on the left, it's got solar panels, there's green roofs. We actually have gone through the LEED process, and we're actually close to platinum. Didn't quite make it, but it's an incredible building. So if you're ever in our neighborhood, please come and see it. The other building, which I manage, is a 1959 building, which is adorable, but has its limitations when it comes to sustainability, but we've been working on it. So as Alex said, one of the action items is to conduct a water assessment. And basically through our assessment, we realized that hot water is, we actually did this when we were in an interim location for the main library, but it sort of fits for both. I will say that we are using minimal of hot water, especially here in the branch, because we don't get much hot water, so that helps. And I would say for cleaning, although it says 1 bucket of hot water used per day for cleaning, it's probably more now at the main library because it's doubled its size. So it's over 30,000 square feet with 6 bathrooms. So we are probably using a little bit more water there to clean. Some staff wash their individual lunch containers that they bring from home. Others just bring them back home. I actually just bring it home. So really the restrooms are what account for most of the water use in the library. And as I said, the new main library has 6 bathrooms. The Hilton branch has 2 public restrooms and 1 staff restroom. Monitoring water bills. The business manager monitors the bills for both buildings. We really don't have a bill yet for the main library, so it's hard to say what the consumption is there. At Hilton, we have seen this little graph that shows from January 24 to March of 25, and you see that big spike. That is our irrigation system. So one thing this showed us was we're consuming a lot more water during that time. It's not a big surprise, but when you see it on a graph, it makes you think. And so what we've decided to do is to stop irrigation for next year. We had, a few years ago, we had all new native plants put in the front beds of the branch. And so they're established now. So we don't feel like we need to use the irrigation system at this point. The main library has all native plantings and they do not have an irrigation system. Install water efficient devices. Well, the main library is completely, heavy flow rates of toilets and urinals and lavatory. We have a shower. That's part of the gold lead, actually, to have a shower so people can bike to work and shower afterwards. The manufacturer there is Sloan. And then at Hilton, back in 2015, we had both public restrooms renovated, and they are all low flow. I think one thing I should probably step back. Maplewood itself is a sustainable town, and they've taken a lot of they made a lot of inroads in building sustainable buildings. The library isn't the first. The police station is I think a gold silver lead building, and that was built back in the early 2000s. They are a silver medal for sustainable New Jersey. There's resolutions in place to build sustainably, which they are doing. They also have a green purchasing policy. So that's helped us the whole way along this path of getting our certification. So fast forward to 2015, they renovated the bathrooms and put all low flow fixtures in. We still have a staff room that hasn't been renovated, so that is on the horizon. Leak detection. So we were like, what are we going to do about leak detection? So we put signs everywhere. In the Hilton branch and in our interim location. So basically report a leak, report a leak. Not that people weren't doing that, but now the new library has a leak detection system through Total Leak, which operates 24/7, and it will ready to shut off water at the first sign of trouble. The system is tied to the library network. So you can't get much better than that. At the branch, we still have the signups, but I will tell you, 2 weeks ago, a patron walked up to the desk and said, "You have a sign that said I should report a leak. Your water fountain is leaking." So, so it works. The signs work. And that actually sort of helped us out because I was trying to get a new water fountain, a bottle filler, filtered waters, and I was getting there was a little dragging of feet from Department of Public Works because they're busy. But when this broke down, they were like, all right, we'll just give you the new one. So I'm getting my water fountain because the old one leaked. So there's always an upside. Avoid evaporation is the fifth action item, and irrigation equipment. So as I said before, Hilton has an irrigation system. It was very sustainable in what we used it for. It's on a timer. It turned on at 6 o'clock in the morning, so it wasn't turning on in the middle of the day. The sprinkler heads get checked, the system's flushed in the fall. And as you can see, I think you can see the sprinkler heads are water sense sprinkler heads. But as I said, we're gonna turn that off now, because they're established. And then we have it in case of any issues with drought. So the main library will not have an irrigation system, as I said. There are hose bibs for the garden club to come in and water if necessary. Especially for the first 2 years, because there is that establishment time frame. So they will be watering during that time. But otherwise, we're just not going to be flowing water out through an irrigation system anymore. F7, prioritize water sense labeled products. Well, as I said, our sprinkler heads were water sense. This is a section of the Maplewoods Green Purchasing Policy Guides. And this guides the Department of Public Works in purchasing replacement fixtures. And I highlighted water efficiency. And they really, I mean, they are, whenever I think we see it here more at the branch, when something gets replaced, you're like, whoa, wait, wow. Because, even like new light fixtures are on motion censored and, things that we are not used to in this building, are coming in slowly but surely as things need to be replaced. And then, of course, the new building has all the water efficiency standards for LEED Gold. Proper water disposal. We have slop sinks in both libraries, and our mop water is disposed of in those slop sinks. And anything else we use in the building for programs will be thrown into the slop sink or a toilet. Now, the recommended action items, we decided to go with F9 to educate staff, which I think overall that makes sense from perspective of getting all staff engaged in this process. So we shared information from the EPA with staff, and I have a link there for you. F11 is a just irrigation system, and I talk about there having the system replaced 3 years ago, and then the water sense features, but also we're going to be turning that off. And then design a water smart landscape. Not only are there native plantings around the main library, there's also permeable walkways. So when you come see us, you'll see the walkways that surround the building are either brick or some kind of permeable substance. Some are, granular sandish with stone. So all permeable surrounding the building, which for us is also a smart thing to do because the new library, the new main library sits right next to a creek, which can overflow. In fact, right before we started construction, Ida hit and we had 8 feet of water in the basement. And so the architects actually went back to the drawing board and changed some of the features of the building because of that. So this helps us in many ways to have the permeable walkways around the building. Okay. and replace toilets, which we have done in 2015, as I mentioned before, at the Hilton branch. And of course, the new library has all high efficiency toilets. Water heater thermostats. I actually had to have the Department of Public Works open up the water heater because there wasn't a gauge right outside, but he opened it up for me and he put it at 120, and the main library will of course be at 122. So that's it. Do you have any questions or comments or?
Yeah, if anybody has any questions or comments for Irene, feel free to unmute or throw it in the chat. Thank you so much, Irene. That it's always awesome to learn about our member libraries. Thank you for sharing about this section. Would you be able to send me the slides afterwards so I
Sure.
could
Yeah,
post them with the recording on the SLI website? I do want to
definitely.
mention, you mentioned the new building that you guys have, and I know there was a lot of news that you guys got. So I did
Mhm.
drop some links in the chat if people are interested in learning more about Maplewood's new building. They were featured on the news, and there was some local New Jersey, media outlets that wrote up, some very nice, coverage on the library's new building. So I dropped those chats in there. We shared it in our August newsletter as well. So if you want to check those out and learn more, you can do that there. Thank you again, Irene. Again,
And
if anybody has any questions or comments, feel free. I do. I like I think one of the things that we noticed here at the Suffolk Cooperative Library System, something that we learned from another member was similar to what you guys are doing with the leak detection signs, placing those in the bathrooms or by the water fountain. We recently did that here at the Suffolk Cooperative Library System, and it seems to be working pretty well. I imagine, it probably works really well at a public library when you have the patrons, coming in and being able to, share with you any possible leaks. And like you said, it kind of worked out for you a little bit there because you were pushing to get a water filling station. So that's great. See the possibilities even when you don't really, even when you don't aren't looking for
if
them.
you don't plan on it, it can work out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this whole process has been very interesting because we do have this brand new library, and going through this process a lot of the time we weren't in the building. So now, we're speeding up because now we have the experience with the new building. But to have the gold lead building and a 1959 building with asbestos and everything else in it. We get to see kind of both sides of how it can be so easy if you have a sustainable building to take advantage of this. But it also makes us think about how we can do things here in this 1959 building. But luckily we do have the support of the town. In fact,
Yeah.
there is a Sustainable Maplewood Committee, and Joanne Beckerich, who is also one of the leaders of our SLI group, our committee, attend those meetings now. And it's really beneficial because simple things like that we tell them that we're doing, they now started doing. Like they weren't printing on scrap paper. They weren't printing double-sided. Now they've been instructed to to
That's
do
awesome.
that. Yeah, and that the green purchasing policy went out again after the last meeting because we're like, oh yeah, we have the green purchasing policy. We're following your green purchasing policy. And they're like, oh, send it out to everybody.
Yeah. How can we got to get
So,
on that? Yeah.
so yeah, really, I think that working with the township has been really helpful.
Yeah, that's definitely a huge benefit, having that, and look, it also proves how important libraries are and how influential libraries can be. That you're working with the town and kind of making them change their ways and helping them to be more sustainable. I mean, that's a huge huge feather in the cap, so they say. Um, Esther threw in the chat if you asking if you had noticed any cost savings with the updates that were made to the building.
Um, well, it's hard to tell yet with the main, I mean, there's gonna be cost savings, no doubt about it. It is a bigger building though, so it kind of, it's hard, that's kind of apples and oranges for the main building. Um, because, and it's, since it only opened in July 5th, I asked our business manager about order bills, and she said, I haven't received one yet. So, so there's certain things I couldn't add because I just don't know yet. We will see savings in water when we don't turn the irrigation system on here at the branch next year. We probably have seen some savings in electric. I don't think where it's dramatic savings here at the branch, but there's certain things we think differently about things like I'm in my office right now. I have a task light on and one of the headlights on instead of all the lights on. And we're doing that more and more where in the workroom, if you're in the tech workroom and there's one person, they can have one light on and their task light and they're set. So it really is, it changes how people think. And there is savings, but more I think, from my perspective, more of it is how people are saving energy and saving time and not wasting as much, we always were a library that's sort of, our programming budget is very small. We don't have a huge programming budget. So we were always looking for sustainable ways of reusing things or using things we had on hand. So we're just more conscious about it now and thinking about it more, and like that's our first thought as opposed to, well, if I buy this, blah, blah, blah. So it does save money, and I can't really say I can give you a dollar amount, but you save money this way.
Yeah, and I mean, it sounds like too, like you mentioned, if there's in your office, you're using like the task lighting and one overhead light, and then if another one of your colleagues is in a different room, they're kind of, it's like it sounds like there's that mindset shift, that once you kind of bring these things to light and share them with people, like, oh, hey, do you really need to do it this way? Why don't you try it this way?
Mhm.
Kind of people may just not be thinking about it until you kind of presented to them that way. And then eventually, like you said, those cost savings, you do see them because people are just thinking, kind of
Yeah.
smarter, more sustainable.
Yeah, you think about like centralized purchasing. We did have somewhat of a centralized purchasing situation, but now we've even more so. And we did our inventories. I know I'm getting off water, but
Sorry.
we did our inventories, and since we have two buildings, there of course was a lot of overlap, but we'd find, Hilton had, enough card stock for the next year, and Maine was running low. So, things like that. So instead
Yeah,
of just purchasing nilly-willy and having duplicates of everything when you don't know when you're gonna need it again, right?
yeah,
It just saves money. So we do have a more centralized purchasing now. We've set up, and it was simple that instead of us keeping a list here and people just going into the business administrator there, um, everyone submits a Google form for whatever they need. And so then she can look at it and say, okay, well, these three people need this, so yeah, I'll order that. But, oh, but I have 10 of that in there, so you just give it to them. So because we have, you know, a number of departments and they all need their own supplies to a certain extent. So so yeah, it's really a change in mindset. Um I think, yeah, the more I think about what we've done, they're like little incremental steps, but overall it's been, we now actually, there's a woman in town who started taking in recycled things that the regular recycler pickup doesn't take. And
Oh,
she's
wow.
found all these ways to get rid of this stuff. So she'll
That's
take plastic bags that we can't put in our recycling. She'll take toothpaste tubes. She'll take egg cartons. She's found places for all this stuff. So each building has a bin and we fill it up from and it's just staff because we couldn't handle the load of the patrons
yeah,
too, but um, you know, she leaves a bin with us each month in each building. We fill it up with stuff and she takes it away and batteries, you know, it just,
that's awesome.
so, you know, you find these little ways to sort of
Partner.
complete your action items, but you're also partnering with a local business
Yeah.
and doing good.
How, like you mentioned the Google form for the inventory that also
Mhm.
cuts down on, printing out paper and, filling it out and handing that in. So you're printing less. So, more digitizing the way that the workflow, right?
Yeah,
So that's another way. One thing I do want to ask, since you do have two buildings, how is your like your sustainability or your green team structured? Like, do you have people from both buildings that are involved in the meetings? And do you get
yeah.
together in person or virtual or?
Uh, there's, I'm at the branch and Jennifer Jacopo, who's my children's librarian, we're both on the committee. And then everyone else is from the main library. Um, we meet in person, um, at the main library. So, so there is travel involved, but,
Yeah,
it's not, it's a mile.
yeah, it's minimal.
It's a
Yeah,
mile
yeah,
away.
yeah,
So, but I think for us, you know, meeting in person is important. We have to go through everything and,
yeah, yeah,
um,
for sure. How many do you have? How big is the team? Do you have a lot of members or?
we have six on the first generation team. And then we had subcommittees,
Oh,
which had other members of the staff involved in the subcommittee committees. And we split it up a little differently than um, I'll be honest with you, I had trouble with the action item form and how it was structured and how
yeah,
certain things sort of fit into different categories for me. So I split them up into into different categories. So
yeah,
we had committees on based on that. Um, and then we combine, you know, certain ones just because we couldn't have a committee for each group.
yeah,
But so we had subcommittees which involved other staff members. And I will say that we've kind of taken a break well, we've met in September and October, but June, July, and August were kind of like we were just opening the building, putting books
yeah.
on the shelves. So we took a little break. But so we're really now we're kind of back to working as through the first generation committee, but we'll put people in as we need to.
I mean, that's very cool and interesting that how you made subcommittees like based on either the sections or the type of action item. I mean, whatever you need
That's
to
the
do
type.
to break it up to make it easy for you. That's I don't know if I've ever heard of it done like that way, like in that like a subcommittee form. Certainly, people maybe like ask certain staff members depending on their title to help with different sections like finance or the facilities stuff, and maybe those people aren't on like the original core team, but I think it's cool the way you guys are breaking it down. That seems like it works really well. Maybe some other people would want to do it that way. That's great.
Yeah, it helped get other people involved,
Yeah,
instead of just this small group. So it was nice to have it done that way.
absolutely. Anybody else have any questions for Irene, or want to talk about anything else in the water section or any other section for that matter? We can certainly open it up. Feel free to unmute or throw something in the chat if you'd like. And once again, we'll make sure that the recording and the copy of the slides get up onto the SLI website, and yeah, you can always look back at that. It'll be in the resources section um, on our on-demand webinars, so you can always refer back to it.
Yeah, and as you probably saw on the last page, is my contact information and Joanne's contact. So if you had any questions about the slides, please give us a holler.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's much appreciated.
Sure.
Well, I mean, if we don't have any more questions or comments, we could end it there. I don't want to keep everybody. I would like to mention the next meetup in November will be the second Thursday. That'll be November 13th, 1 p.m. Our next section is materials. So we'll be discussing that. If anybody is interested in being a guest speaker, feel free to reach out to me. And yeah, we'll see you next month. I'd like to just thank Irene one more time for your time. Thank you for sharing about the Maplewood Library. We appreciate hearing about it and learning all the cool things that you guys are doing. So thank you for joining us this
Thank
afternoon
you.
and sharing.
Thanks.
All right, we'll be in touch. Take care, everybody. Have a nice afternoon.